Hello and welcome to an album a day, day 112, going through my vinyl collection today. We are talking about the debut album in 1970 from this band. I've covered them before, but we're going back to the beginning of the collection for this one. My copy is from 1971 on Cotillion Records. They're the only band who I have any vinyl from Cotillion Records, and I have a couple, so we'll get to those. But today we're talking about the album Emerson, Lake and Palmer from Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Cool stuff. Love this. It looks like maybe an oil painting. I've always thought that was nice. I really like the logo too. Very detailed. The vinyl is, that fake marbleized look, which I actually really like. I think it looks good. Nice stuff from Cotillion Records there. Blue on blue is kind of bold, but it works because the shades are different enough. And, I can say I'm a big fan of that. The picture continues along the backside where we see a little bit of the front of the face. It's hard to tell, but there actually is a head here. And then we continue on to the front and get the front side of it. You can kind of see the ear. That's a bit of the giveaway. And then it goes on to the song list and all that. Really cool stuff on here. I'm going to check real quick for a sleeve. I think it was just a generic sleeve, but yes, just a generic sleeve. But the songs, thinking of, gee, I wonder who this band is, and you go to your buddy's house and they've got the record and you're like, hey, who's this Emerson, Lake and Palmer band? And they put on, starting with The Barbarian, classic track from them, absolutely fantastic. Take a Pebble, another one of my favorites. Knife Edge. I remember seeing them perform this in Denver. It was Dream Theater, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and Deep Purple. And this would be, I believe, Emerson, Lake and Palmer's final tour. When I met Carl Palmer a few years back in Las Vegas, we were talking about this tour, and he said it was a great tour. He had a lot of fun on it. But I remember Keith Emerson did a few things that I thought were a little cheesy, shooting fireworks out of the keytar. And for Knife Edge, he actually took a knife and stabbed the piano with it, and just, it just stuck in there because he hit between the keys. Interestingly, I found out that actually was not a piano. It appeared to be like a full grand piano that they had on stage, but it wasn't. It was the shell of a piano and an Alesis QS88 keyboard. I mean, why carry around the weight of all the hammers and all that stuff if you really don't need to? It makes sense. If you're recording, yes, you absolutely use proper gear for recording. You would use an actual piano, get that depth out of it. But if you're on tour, you don't need to be lugging that around all over the country. It's ridiculous. When we get to side 2, it gets a little more thematic. We get to the Three Fates. I'm not going to try and pronounce them because I can't, at least I'm sure not accurately, but it is a wonderful piece. This is the kind of stuff that I feel came out of like King Crimson going into Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And of course, Greg Lake sang for King Crimson on one of my favorite albums of all time. Then we get to Tank, and a song that Greg Lake actually wrote, I just found out, when he was 14 years old, and became not just a staple, but an incredibly famous song. Lucky Man wraps out the album. Absolutely fantastic stuff, you guys. A really killer start for this band right off the bat, just setting a tone for what they would become. And then I think their second album was Tarkus. So here's the start, and then they go to Tarkus, of all things. I mean, right from the beginning, these guys were creating just these amazing pieces that were unlike anything else really in rock and roll. I mean, King Crimson, I think, had some element of this, but I think what Emerson, Lake and Palmer did was just take it in a whole new direction and just amplify it times 100 as far as, storytelling, epic songs, these really long, drawn-out instrumental pieces, almost like, symphonies in and of themselves. Just absolutely amazing, and a great band that has definitely left a mark on history. If you get the chance to see them live. Now, of course, Keith Emerson and Greg Lake are no longer with us, but Carl Palmer is continuing on with Emerson, Lake and Palmer. They are on tour right now with an incredible guitar player and bass player. I've seen them live as the Emerson, Lake and Palmer, or ELP Legacy Band. But I think they're doing something a little bit different visually, where they're showing concert footage and playing along to that. So you get the sort of the impression that Keith Emerson and Greg Lake are there. Thank God they didn't go for holograms. That's just insane to me. Not a fan of that idea. But I think from what I've seen of this, it looks reasonably classy, you know. I would love to see it. There's no Oklahoma tour date at this point, but if you get the chance to see him, go see him, because these guys put on an absolute spectacle. The energy that Carl Palmer has is absolutely incredible. So anyway, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. See you guys tomorrow. Cheers.